We've begun a driveline swap on this sharp-looking 1968 Oldsmobile Cutlass after the owner requested a modern supercharged engine and overdrive transmission install to wake up the performance and the economy. The existing low-compression Olds V8 was built to run on low-octane gas, so it only netted 230 horsepower in our baseline dyno session.
Some of the benefits of putting a modern engine into an older car are drivability and fuel economy. These are two things that typically old cars don't do well. You sit them around for a long time, like over the winter, go out to turn the key, it doesn't start. It doesn't want to start hot maybe, change in altitude, you're on a power tour or something, changes, doesn't run right. And then the computer control, constantly adjusting, gives better fuel economy as well as better drivability. This particular 68 442 isn't actually a 442. It's a Cutlass that has all the correct 442 parts installed on it. The owner basically had a bunch of things left over from his other cars. The good thing about this is the car is not as valuable as a real numbers matching 442. Sometimes cars can be really rare or have a particular option package and you don't want to take a numbers matching drivetrain out. In this case, since the car is not the real deal, putting a late model engine in it makes the car much more fun than it ever would be with the Oldsmobile engine, because it's going to go anywhere you want to go and it's going to have all the power you'll ever need.
The other consideration today is that everything we're doing to this car, if you wanted to, could be undone. I mean, we didn't take the engine out and throw it away. So if you really wanted to, you could swap it back in, put a carburetor back on it, and have that 1968 experience all over again.
As we were pulling the engine out, we also noticed that the restoration was very thorough. A lot of times you'll see a car that maybe they painted the engine in place, painted the frame rails with the engine in the way or something. Everything on this car was clearly taken all the way apart and put back together. In this particular car, we're swapping in a GM LSA Connect and Cruise kit. This kit consists of an LSA engine, which comes in 2009 to 2014 Cadillac CTS-V, and a 4L80 transmission, along with a transmission controller, engine controller, a wire harness, and most of the electronic things you need to install it into the car. LS swaps are pretty common these days. There's a lot of products on the market that make an LS swap relatively easy. Unfortunately, with the LSA engine, we have some different dynamics with the supercharger and the accessory drive and all the associated parts that go along with that. In this particular case, we can't move the AC compressor up higher like we do on most typical LS installations. This necessitated us taking a set of BRP Hot Rods motor mounts and modifying them to move the engine farther down and farther forward to get the space we needed for the compressor.
It's still a little bit tricky to get the supercharged accessory drive systems figured out on a lot of these muscle car swaps. GM has a bracket kit that you can buy to put on that will elevate the alternator and the power steering pump and get those out of the way. But the AC compressor still mounts kind of low. And we've done a couple of these cars with an LSA, we've done them with the LS9, so we have experience making these brackets and making this stuff fit. On this car, a friend of ours just happened to make some brackets and he had an extra, so he mailed us one that we've installed on this car. It's not a piece you can buy, but it helps you mount that compressor on an A-body car like this.
The GM Performance Connect and Cruise kit comes with all the electronics you need to get the engine running. But one of the things we decided to do differently was to use a VaporWorks fuel pressure controller. What this does is it electronically controls fuel pressure via a pulse width modulation system instead of using a regulator and a return line. The benefits of this are quieter pump operation, more controlled fuel pressure, and longer fuel system life. 68 442s come with a factory ram air setup. The way it works is there's two scoops up under the bumper, and then there's some ductwork that goes through the inner fenders up to the air filter. We decided to take advantage of the factory ram air system, and Adam designed a cold air intake tube that runs into the driver's fender and closes it off so that the cold air being shoved in that scoop goes all around the air filter and gives us full benefit of what GM originally intended. On the passenger side, he made a simple cap to keep the air from coming up in that scoop, although the outside of the car visually looks correct for a 442. The transmission we're using in this car is a 4L80 transmission. It's a 4-speed automatic overdrive with a lockup converter that was originally found in heavy-duty pickup trucks. The reason we're going this direction is because of the strength of the 4L80 and that it fits relatively easy into the older cars. The LSA actually comes with a 6L90 transmission behind it, which is just simply too big to fit into an A body. Even though the 4L80 is relatively the same outer dimensions as its Turbo 400 parent, it's a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. Alright, so a few of the problems we're having with this 4L80 is there's these oil passages in the side of this that square this off, so the transmission's hitting the tunnel there. It's also hitting the tunnel up here on top of the bell housing. With this new Holley pan, though, we've got a whole bunch of space up here, so we're actually going to try and bring this motor down. So we're going to flip these BRP Hot Rods mounts over and see what that does for us before we cut anything up. And if that doesn't work, we'll modify the mounts to bring the motor down, get us some more space, and not have to cut up the tunnel.